I recently read Man's Search for Meaning, and it's changing everything. Whether it was talking more about responsibility, being questioned by life, logotherapy, etc., it all made a massive impact in my life. But one thing that really struck me powerfully was rising above the situation. You see, Frankl was sent to a concentration camp in 1939 and survived until 1945. And one of the main things that kept him alive, kept him from dying all the time, was what he calls rising above the situation. For example, Frankl was in the concentration camp, and one day it was excruciatingly tough. He was worn out, he was hungry, he was cold, etc. And as he was walking, someone told him to think about his wife, and so he just did. He said, all right. And he started thinking about how great their love was together, how much fun times they would have, and how much fun times they will have in the future. And that idea kept pushing him through the rest of the day. And the whole day he kept picturing his wife, not knowing if she was alive or dead still. And similarly, in my own life, I can see how rising above the situation and seeing a possible future outcome can be so powerful. If you're able to rise above a situation by seeing beyond it, seeing the future happiness and success you'll have when you're done, you're able to tolerate stuff that usually you might not be able to. So for me, I'm a swimmer right now, and in swimming we do some very challenging sets where it'll be just list after list after list, tough things, there's almost no rest. And for a moment you're there and you're like, I'm not sure if I can do this. But then you realize, you know what? I have to think about myself. I've got to think about Josiah being done. I have to see myself wrapping up in the towel, getting finished, having that feeling of just finishing a workout, knowing that you're better than it, you're stronger than it. Doing that helps me see past it. It helps me rise above the situation, just like Frankl did, but in a much more grand scale for Frankl, of course. Here's an interesting quote that I found very valuable. Affectus qui passio est disnint esse passio simulatque ius clarum et distinctatum formas ideam. And that's Latin, meaning emotion, which is suffering, ceases to be suffering as soon as we form a clear and precise picture of it. And that's Spinoza from The Ethics. So exactly like Spinoza said, if we're able to identify the suffering and identify, so maybe you're in a hard set for your workout, or you're going to work and you see that it's going to be really tough, but you decide anyways, I'm going to go through it. If you decide exactly what it is and you identify it and name it, then it ceases to be suffering. It's no longer suffering. So being able to do that is really powerful. Using this as a springboard, we can go into the only other thing that we have, and that is, without faith in the future, without this faith in future happiness and stuff, it becomes very challenging to see meaning in what you're doing. So say you're a swimmer like me, and you're in the pool and you have no faith in the future. If you think, well, you know what, I'm never going to get out of this pool, I don't even believe that I'm leaving out of this pool ever, I'm going to be here swimming for the rest of my life, hard sets, zero rest. How does that have any meaning? It's going to be so much harder to convince yourself to keep going when you have zero future to look forward to, zero faith, zero promise, zero success to look forward to. That's why having that faith in the future is so important. Frankl mentions the prisoner who had lost faith in the future. He says his future was doomed. So if you lose faith in the future, it doesn't even matter. Your future is doomed. So having that faith in the future is incredibly important. Now, I'm going to leave you with two quotes. One by poet Rilke, and the other one I believe, by Nietzsche. And the first one is, and they're both German, so I'm not a German speaker, so go with me here, is why will ist afhusten, and that means how much suffering is there to get through, with an exclamation point. So how much suffering is there to get through, kind of in a positive way. And it's something that I want to say every time I go into a tough situation, and I hope that you guys can maybe say it too. So when you're going into a tough set for a workout, how much suffering is there to get through? Like, come on, let's get through this, and then we'll finish. And the last quote is something you'll definitely recognize after you hear the definition, but it's was mich nicht umbringt macht mich starker. And that means that which doesn't kill me makes me stronger. So being able to identify that no matter what, as long as I don't die, it always makes me stronger. So if I can push through something that's really challenging and not die, I'm getting stronger every time. So being able to do that, super powerful. And yeah, so take today, try to rise above the situation, whatever it is. Human interactions with other people, with your family, with work, with family, with entrepreneurship, with minimalism, whatever it is, rise above the situation. See yourself already in that future spot, and then use that as your aim while you're doing the activity, and you'll have meaning in what you're doing. Remember, emotion, which is suffering, ceases to be suffering as soon as we form a clear and precise picture of it. Make that suffering cease to be suffering.